jump in this thing and see what it'll do.
Ready to rock this, bro?
Oh, hell yeah. What do you think, Bolt? You can go ahead and dig another hole. All right, so we got the quarter panels ready to be lizard skinned. They're all sanded, masked off, ready to blow on some lizard skin. Lizard skin is actually a form of insulation, kind of like a sound deadener. So it's actually pretty good. And after a couple days, you can go ahead and spray it with regular paint. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm trying to get these lizard skinned right now because I figure in about 2 days, I'll have the roof fitted, the rear window filler panel fitted, to where I can go ahead and pull these back off and paint the insides of them, paint the wheelhouses and all that stuff, and then I can burn them on. So I'm trying to plan ahead of time by not having to wait for something to dry. So lizard skin now, finish fitting the rest of the car. Once, after a couple days, pull these back off, paint them, and then I can weld them on. So that's the plan right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix up my lizard skin right in here. Hold on. I gotta turn my jams off so that way I don't get demonetized. That's so stupid. All right, so lizard skin right here. This is actually kind of a water base. So I have my drill bit right here, or my mixer. Gonna go ahead and churn it up, put it in my lizard skin gun, and look at the size of the nozzle on that thing, because that's some thick, pasty stuff right there. All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and get on that. Lizard skin's all dry. Getting ready to put the quarter panels back on Raymond's car right there. But before I do that, I want to get the valence corners on. These are actually the most difficult part of a charger, or at least I think they are. Well, maybe not the most difficult, but the most technical, I would say, because this guy right here lines up the valence quarter, the quarter panel, the trunk pan, and the trunk extension. All of that area kind of ties into this guy. And so if it's not aligned right, you're going to get a gap here, you're going to get a gap here, and it just won't look right. So I've seen a lot of cars that had the metalwork done, and the gaps around this was terrible. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and weld it on here so that way I get a nice tight seam, just like that. And then I will have to shimmy, shake, move around, kick, shove, hammer, whatever I got to do to get this guy to line up to the rear valence. So I'm going to go ahead and get these guys burned in, and then I can screw the quarter panels back on the car. You'll notice metal shavings in it because I just finished drilling some of my holes and everything, so it is actually ready to screw on. After I weld this on, of course. So, fire up the welder and get ready to go. Well, not exactly gonna put it on right now. I just noticed an imperfection in the stamping. So, we got a hole there, and see how there's a kind of a dent in the side of it? That's not supposed to be there. I'll go ahead and line these two up side by side. See, that's got a nice straight edge to it, and there's no hole. Whereas that side, the top half is missing, or the top corner. So, I need to go ahead and add some weld to this, and then I'll just grind it down. That'd be the easy fix for it. And it'll all be metal, so. Do that real quick, then I'll get back to welding on. More better. Now I can weld it on. Alright, so here's the area I was talking about where I leave it loose, the trunk extension and the lower quarter. I don't weld the trunk extension to the quarter, and I don't weld the corner valence to the trunk extension or the rear frame rail tie connector until I get the rear valence on here, because sometimes you gotta move stuff around, twist, bend, move up and down. So I want to leave all that loose in case I have to do some shimmying. So I'll just shove this up there for right now and jump to the other side. So we got the quarter panels on last night. They're all clamped down, screwed together. Now I left the tops loose so that way I can fit the roof skin, but I also left the tops of the quarters loose because I need to fit the rear window filler panel, which is sitting right here. This guy needs to be trimmed. Flip it over here so that way it fits inside. Set that right there. See, I can't slide this all the way over because that's already touching the quarter. So it's pretty typical. I have to trim some excess off of here. We'll go look at this side. That side's, I don't think we need to really do any trimming to that side. I think that side will be all right. So it's just going to be a little bit of trimming, and then I'm going to go ahead and clamp the two sides together. See, by clamping this and then clamping this side, that will essentially suck the quarter panels in. So that's why I didn't screw or weld anything on here yet, because sometimes you still got to move things around. So leave things loose so we can shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. Then we'll clamp it down, screw it down, and I know where that's going to sit. Then we'll move to the roof skin. Time to cut, trim, fit, screw, clamp. Yeah, that went together pretty good. Alright, so it took a minute longer than I thought. Maybe a couple more minutes than a minute. But I got the rear window filler panel on. It's fitted, it's trimmed. I've actually got bolts on the corners here so I can suck the gap up tight enough so that when I weld it, it'll be good. Because it seems like these have a little bit of bow to them and it's supposed to be perfectly straight. Couple issues here. Gonna need quite a bit of trimming here and there on the hinge brackets. More trimming on the hinge brackets here. And it took some trimming here to make it fit. And it took a little bit of hammering work up here in the corner down in the gap there. Basically putting a hammer in there and then hitting it with another hammer just to suck it down in there, so that way it's all good. Actually, yeah, here we go. That's what I did right there. Because the height of this side here was way higher than this side. So basically, it's just not a perfect stamping. So by knocking that corner down there, we're actually shrinking the height of this gap here. So it evened those out better. Did the same thing on that side. Now I was able to pull the roof skin back, and it actually fit perfect. It just slipped back and lined up perfect. So that is all good now. So now I can go ahead and start trimming and fitting the roof skin, and then actually drilling tons of holes in the roof skin and burning it all in. Well, this is the whole point of screwing and clamping a car together. That way you can check all your measurements, everyth's good. Actually, so from here to here, that gap perfectly matches the original metal on that car right there. The height is good. So I check all my numbers, all my measurements, and then we go ahead. If we have to shimmy and move stuff around just a little bit, it's not a big deal. But I can move on to the next thing. So, roof skin, here we go. Yeah, buddy, starting to look more like a Charger. Yeah, you can never have enough clamps. I have clamps all around this car. The quarter panel is being held on by clamps and screws. See, we have, I call them pinning screws. You guys probably know that by now. But I pin, when I have the panel fitted to where I want it to be sitting, then I go ahead and put a couple pin screws in there, so that way I know when I put it back together, that's where that panel needs to sit. Just like here. See, that's where this panel needs to sit, right here. That's where this panel needs to sit. This panel. Same with the quarters. There's screws holding the quarters on. So we got some in the door jamb area. Those there. We got some along the bottom, and along the wheel well. So all these panels are not just clamped. There's a couple screws hold them on, but they're also clamped to make the panels sit tight to each other. All right. Well, I guess I just need to start painting. It's really too cold to be painting, but I'm gonna have to get it done. It's just gonna take longer for it to dry. And then we gotta throw a cover over this thing. This thing's already painted and looks pretty. Not pretty. This is actually the color that Smurf is supposed to be. B5 blue. You don't have to walk away, Derek. You're not that ugly. Alright, well, we're gonna go get some food, get some hardware, come back, paint. Derek's gonna work on that thing. I'm gonna work on this thing. Get some stuff done today. Alright, so next time you see this car, I'll be drilling holes in it. In the roof skin, quarter panels will be off because I gotta paint those. And hopefully the wind stays like it is, because if it's breezy, I cannot paint. It's sticking a lot better now it has the other coat on. It's just so freaking cold.
Yeah.
The only thing that's important is where you can see it when you open the tank. Oh, look at the camouflage. Orange gloves, orange paint. So the General Lee, since the quarter panel is off of it, right here, we went ahead and sprayed the lizard skin orange, and we went ahead and sprayed the whole back area right here orange. Pretty much actually the whole inside the quarter panel. I didn't really focus too much up here because you're never gonna see any of that. I pretty much just wanted to fog what was left in the gun. Mostly focused from about here back, because that's actually what you're gonna see. And plus this is already coated, so it's not like we're trying to preserve the rust or anything, because it already is. This car here is already what is not AMD metal. So this is AMD metal. What is left of the car, which is original, which actually, come to think of it, isn't really a whole lot. We had to replace a lot on this car, remember?
Yeah.
So, but the roof structure is all original. This is original. The package tray is original. The inner wheelhouse is original. This is original. The outer wheelhouse is AMD. Mostly the reason we painted this orange right here is so, because it's kind of hard to get a gun up here in this area, and a lot of times you get runs real easy because you've got the gun all, you know, holding it all weird angled and everything. So at least with all of the paint in the hard to reach areas, and all I did was base coat it. So I'm not going to clear it. I'm just going to base coat it. And so that way when they actually go to paint the car, and they spray all their orange in the trunk. All they got to do is lightly scuff up the orange. I mean, just like the emery cloth or bristle pad, whatever. Just lightly scuff it up, and then spray their new orange everywhere, and that'll cover all the hard to reach areas. Didn't really need to spray in here, but I was having to spray the bottom, and so I figured, you know what? We'll just go ahead and spray the inside. I got left over in the gun. We're actually going to get ready to do the same thing to this side. I don't know how far I'll get because it's literally like 40 degrees outside right now. And if it wasn't for Derek running side by side with me with the heat gun, heating up the panels, and then I spray it, and then he heats up what I just sprayed so that way it doesn't get runs on it real easy. Because even just fogging it on real lightly, just some areas would still run. It's just the metal's that cold. Actually, the only thing, we're gonna go ahead and spray the trunk hinges. They're right here. This is 2 real light coats. It needs 1 more coat to finalize that. Because I mean, I have to spray it really lightly. But this is ready to go back on the car, and this thing can actually get burned in. Now that it's orange, and all of this here is orange. This is actually flame orange, 1975 flame orange, which same thing, flame red. So, quarter on, clamp screw in place, quarter off, rinse, repeat, same thing over again. Oh, you're gonna interrupt me, Bolt. Ah, Bolt, no. No, Bolt. Good boy, sit there. Oh, I forgot to open the door. One second. It's all right. What do you think, Bolt? Are we making any progress? Nod for yes. I guess that's kind of odd. Alright. So, yep. Got the insides of the quarters, the wheelhouses, the bottom side of the package tray, and the bottom side of the rear window filler panel all painted orange while the car was all blown apart. So that way, it's easier when you go back to actually painting the trunk area, because it really sucks painting a trunk. The overspray, it just sucks, and then when you're down in there, it's kind of hard to see because just a fog. And what's really hard is when you're spraying a black car, because you can see really clearly until you pull that trigger and just a fog of black. It just, you can't see where you started, where you stopped. It sucks. But anyways, that's not what we're doing right now. What we're doing right now is we got the rear valence and we got the tail panel. These are getting ready to be fitted to Raymonds General Lee. And we got some hokey dokiness going on right here. We got a ratchet strap, clamps, hammer, block of wood, jack, and vice grips, all getting the rear valence to sit perfectly on Raymonds General. See, I had told you guys before, you want to leave a lot of this whole back area loose. Don't weld it all up yet. You can weld the top of the trunk extension. You can weld this to the trunk pan. You can weld the trunk extension to the trunk pan. And you can weld the outer wheelhouse to the trunk extension, but sometimes you want to leave that loose just for some flexibility. But the reason you want to leave all this stuff loose is so you can lift up, shove in, pull out, whatever you got to do to get everything to line up. Which, for instance, I'm just using a ratchet strap to suck it in, and then I did have to do a little bit of hammer work on the bottom here, not the hammer pushing up. That's just my little extension. Plus, it's a flat metal surface on the jack, block of wood, metal. So, whatever you got to do to get everything to line up, which is just shove in, push up. Sometimes you got to do a little bit of hammering to the rear frame rail tie connector, but for the most part, everything will line up as long as you leave everything loose and do some little tricks to shim, shove, move, whatever. Because, let me show you the number I got right now. Oh yeah, you like that trick, huh? See, because we have, what is that? 57 and, that's close to 58 inches. And so if we come over here, this is gonna be a little difficult with one hand, huh? 1 second. Okay. So we had almost 58 inches on the rear valence from valence corner to valence corner. So if we come over here and we measure what I got right now, we have exactly 58 inches, which that's a little tight. And I'm actually going to open this up just a hair. If you can see, the top of the valence corner overlaps into the trunk pan. This trunk pan is centered. This trunk pan is centered to the car, so I know from edge to edge that is the center of the trunk pan. And I have this overlapping about 1/8 of an inch versus the other side's perfectly flush. And you can see it's kind of tapered in. So by the time I want to screw that side first. So I want to put 2 screws on that side to hold the valence corner where it needs to be. And then when I come over here, I'll just kind of pop this loose. So I'll put 1 screw probably at the bottom. And so that way it'll hold its position. And then when I pop that loose, this top will go thung. And I'll just suck it back in to where this is flush with that. Check my numbers. And then I'll test fit the valence. If everything seems good, then I'll go ahead and drill a couple holes here. And I'll just burn them in right there. And then we slap the rear valence on, slap the tail panel on, and we're good to go. But actually, I have still got to weld on the roof. So, probably not going to do this tonight, but tomorrow the roof is going to get welded on. The quarters are going to get welded on. The rear window filler panels get welded on. And so I'm thinking that's going to take a good, chunk of the day. Ooh, I got to hold the camera all straight for you guys. Trying to do this one-handed and talk and figure out what I'm pointing at and where the hell the camera is aiming. So, difficult sometimes. But, so, tomorrow I'll get all that burned in, and if I have some time left over, then I can start fitting the ass into the car. And then we got to do a couple little things like trunk gutters, and I have to do the little dog legs. See, there's dog legs that go on the quarter panel right here on the inside. I got to put my trunk lock support. I got to put my bumper supports. I got to put seatbelt strap or seatbelt locations. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I still got. See, there again, you're aiming at my chest. I still got quite a few things to do. Dang, just when you thought you're on like the home stretch, which I think I am. Pretty good right now. But I will see you guys in the morning and make some progress on the old General Lee. Man, I got sidetracked. I almost forgot to do something important. Seam seal. Because I got the front part of the rear window filler panel welded on, and I forgot to seam seal on top of the rear window filler panel. So, or the plenum. So the ruin will fill with plenum. You're supposed to seam seal the top of this so that way when the plenum comes down, it gets rid of that teeny sound and connects the two together. Bonds them around them, like bond them, it glues them together. So I'm gonna go ahead and seam seal that. That way I know that's done. So when I squish these two together, it'll and glue it. And then I can weld it. Alright. Got it right here. Cardboard to the rescue. I have done fitted the tail panel. It's screwed in place. It's not welded yet, but cardboard is what makes this fit really good. I have made a template off of, let me see what we got right here. So this is the quarter panel extension. I've made a template off of this guy, so that way I can do my fitment. Because you want this to fit really good. It has. I always do an 1 3/4 from the middle of this radius corner here. On the OEM stuff, it's more sharp, it's more flat, and has more sharp edges to it. The repop stuff has a little bit more roundness to it. The lines aren't as crisp, but you can still use this guy here. So this thing here, it makes all the body lines line up good. Fits really well, because sometimes you need to take this quarter panel right here. You might have to kind of raise it up or shrink it down, you know, open or close this arch here to line up to the quarter panel extension. And I have done that, and I have 2 screws holding it in place. And then now that I know that this thing fits good, I have went ahead and marked the holes, because the for the pins, or actually for the studs here on the quarter panel extension. So this guy is ready to drill and open up them holes. And then I've got my little silver dots here. That's where I'm gonna drill to, so I can actually plug weld this thing on here. Same thing with this side. Now I've got the tail panel fitted to the car, and I just kind of, I literally just threw the rear valence on here just to kind of get a rough fitment on it. It's gonna need a little work, even though these guys here are set to OEM specs. You know, they're 90 degrees from the bottom of the rear frame rail tie connector, this gap right here, and same with the other side. And my gap is good. But the problem is this rear valence doesn't exactly fit OEM. I mean, it's really close, but just needs a little bit of fudging here and there. So actually this guy needs to go this way, probably about 1/8 inch. And then I'm probably gonna have to tilt this, this valence corner this way a little bit to line up with, because you can see it's tighter at the bottom and opened up at the top. And that's the stamping on this. This here is perfectly 90 degrees. Even though it looks like it's tilted, it's not. This line here is 90. So it's just this. So I've actually got to offset this to line up with the imperfection of this. That's why you got to try and leave everything loose. Like, none of this is all welded up. The only thing that's welded is the rear valence corner to the quarter panel. So this right here is the only thing that's welded. Down here, none of that's welded. The trunk extension is only welded to the trunk pan, so this line here. So if I need to move, shimmy, shuck, whatever, and I'm actually going to use, what did I do with it? Oh, here we go. When I get this valence off, I'm actually going to tack weld. I'm going to cut this a little shorter, probably right here. I'm actually going to tack weld this to the skin of this corner, and then just ratchet strap and pull it over, so that way it'll close up that gap. So, little tricks and tips that you got to do to make stuff fit correctly. Because if I would have just went ahead and welded all this up, none of it would have fit right. So, I'm going to go ahead and do what I've got to do to this thing, and I'll catch back up with you in just a minute. all done fitting the rear valence corners. That's actually the trickiest part of doing an entire Charger, is just the valence corners, because you have 1, 2, 3, and then the trunk extension 4, and then the cross rail 5. So you have all 5 panels that cobble together into one seamless gap there. So actually, I wouldn't say seamless. There is a little gap there, but that's just how this valence corner fits. So that is all good now. I can pull the rear valence off, and I can go ahead and drill out my marks, so that way I can plug weld it on. And actually the tail panel is actually ready to be drilled out and welded on. And I went ahead and reamed out the location holes for the, actually, where's that? Here we go. This guy here. I will have to do a little bit of hammer and dolly work to this guy on the bottom, because this contour here doesn't exactly fit the contour of that, but that's not a big deal. I can fix that once it's all welded up. So as you can see, I got to do some work to all that area, but that's just going to involve some hammering and chiseling, maybe a swear word or two. But I can tell you, by the time I am done hammering this thing, this will fit perfect. And really, it's just all that corner down there, not a big deal. All right, so basically drilling, plug welding, and then the back of this car will almost look done, because I still got to do the trunk gutters, I still got to do the rear valence supports, I got to do the trunk lock support, and then there's some rear tail panel supports, and then I got to do some stuff on the inside, and I got to weld some shims to the front clip. Not shims, tubing. So I need to open that up a little bit and sleeve that. There we go, proper word, sleeve it, so that way the bolts for the General Lee push bar can go through that without crushing the frame rails. All right, time to do it. One thing I want to mention is, doing the metalwork on these cars, anybody can do it. It's all just dependent on the quality control that you want to put into it. It's all like the little things, like, you know, just trimming here to make sure that the step and the trunk gutter lines up with the tail panel, even though the tail panel isn't exactly cut right, but close enough. Just all the little details and making sure the gaps are correct, and spending the extra time to make the rear valence fit correctly and the valence corners, and spending the time to make all these gaps tighter. And I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to address the rear window chrome trim alignment here that needs a little bit of touch-up work there. So I mean, anybody can do these. Like even this little stuff right here. Like I had to modify the gap right here. I had to cut a slice and hammer in, and then actually had to widen the top of the quarter panel so that way it's the same width as the door. Just all these little touches that most people will never notice, but the ones that do, they will know that you just built a really nice car. And make sure the welds are good too. I see too many people that are welding with like this. Just because it's sheet metal doesn't mean you got to turn the welder all the way down and turn the speed all the way up. That's wrong. I got mine cranked all the way up and the speed just below average. So that way I make sure it's burned in good. All right, I just wanted to note that. But as of right now, I have got my tail panel all drilled out. I'm going to get ready to go ahead and plug weld this thing in, so then I can move to welding my corners in, and then I will go ahead and weld the rear valence in. And then once the rear valence is in, it's going to be a little bit of metal work to make sure that my rear valence corners tuck in nicely here. Or not rear valence corners, but my quarter panel extensions. There we go. So this is going to take a little bit of massaging so that way it lines up with the quarter panel extension correctly. But as for the arch, the outer edge, that's good. It's just that little tang at the bottom that's going to take a little bit of finessing right there. And probably this side too. So that's where I'm at. I haven't even stuck the trunk lid on this thing, only because I know it's going to fit good. I've taken all my measurements. I know it's going to fit good. But if you don't have other Chargers to go off of, like this one here, the tops of these quarters, these are original quarters, original trunk gutters. These are our original quarter panel extensions. So I use a lot of measurements off of this car just because I know this car. And I've got other cars to check as well, but this one's only 10 feet away and I'm lazy. So boom, boom. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and burn this in. Alrighty guys, since you saw me last, I has done a few things. Nothing big. All I did was go ahead and weld in my trunk gutters. I welded in the trunk lock support here, and I'm actually getting ready to weld in the rear bumper supports or rear valence supports. How I do it is I go ahead and bolt it down on the back side, and I'm just gonna go ahead and burn in around the sides and then burn in the plug welds I need to do around the bolt holes. So nothing too crazy. Oh, one other thing. I went ahead and welded in the taillight panel support, which actually has the hole for the plastic cover that goes over the taillights. So kind of critical you get that in the right spot. Again, luckily I have other cars to measure. This one doesn't count. 68s do not have 69 taillights. So I just used patina. Popped the trunk, took a measurement, good to go. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish burning in the rear valence supports, bumper supports, whatever you want to call them. And then I think I'm actually pretty good on the back of the car. A few little things I need to do on the inside, a few things I got to do on the front side, and then I need to put subframe connectors on this thing. And then after that, kick this sucker out of here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get to burning. Alright, I'm going to highlight something that I've seen people forget to install back in the cars. So this is actually the dog leg. This goes behind the quarter panel and up into the the drip rail. So this is actually I have one set up right here. You can see it behind the quarter and under the drip rail. This actually adds support to the quarter panel right here, because without this guy, this here can flex up and down and eventually cause cracking and up in here. So remember, I know it's a pain in the ass, and I know when you don't take these, like whenever I do quarter panels on the car, I just remove these and I'll install it back when the quarter panel's on the car. Because when you're trying to put a quarter panel on a car that still has these on it, it's kind of a pain in the ass. So I know these get lost because people think the new quarter panels come with this, but they don't. When you buy a new quarter panel, it does not come with this, so do not throw these away. So this is pretty self-explanatory here. All I'm going to do is weld it in, 2 spot welds there, or not spot welds, I'll do 2 plug welds there, and probably like 4 up there, and then that dog leg will be covered. And then, let's see, what else have I got to do? I'm kind of forgetting all what I got to do on this thing, so I made a little list. I did that. I'm working on the dog leg. I need to extend the trunk gutter because you notice, see how nice and tight this is between the trunk gutter and the tail panel where they meet? Well, this one, the tail panel was a little short, so I need to fill that gap right there. So I have to make a little piece and just kind of make it look normal, just like the other side. And I still got to grind a lot of these welds down, like a lot of them right here. These are actually really flush. I kind of see that right there. But I know a lot of people don't like seeing welds, so I'm gonna go ahead and grind those down. And that's actually on here. Grinding. Valence gap. So I had some issues with this rear valence, and like some of it is just the angles, and I could have brought this in more, but then it wouldn't be 90 degrees. Right now, this is 90 degrees, but the rear valence is not. So I'm just gonna cut a slice right here, and I'll just pull this over and then weld the gap back up. Let's see, what else? Seat belts, yeah, I still gotta weld those in. There's a plate that goes behind here with a nut in it, so I gotta weld those in. The push bumper sleeves, okay, so this is a General Lee. If you didn't know that, this is a General Lee. And the push bumper up front, I need to sleeve the frame rails where the bolt goes through. Subframe connectors. Wow, I'm actually close. Close on this thing. Get it the hell out of here. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and burn these dog legs in, and then I think probably tonight the only thing else I'll get to is these push bumper sleeves. I bought the sleeving for that. Now I gotta remember what the hell I did with it. Oh, aha. Right here. Okay. So, next. Okay, trying to get rid of some of the bad gaps from the rear valence. Got Walter here. Hey, what's up? Got Bolt. Bolty Bolt. Yeah, what's up? Alright, so this right, the rear valence had a little bit too much angle in it to line up to the valence corner, and this was correct. This was perfect 90 degrees compared to the rear frame rail tie connector. So I didn't really want to change this. This was the problem. So basically I just cut a slice in it, and I just expanded it out. I mean, you can barely see how much I had to expand it out, but I just wanted it to be right. So now the gap is good, which is kind of hard to see, but the gap is good. You're just looking at like, it's just black EDM coating there, so it's kind of hard to tell it's a real tight, but it is really tight. It's touching. It just looks big because the black paint. But you can barely see. I hardly had to move it over at all. And again, I'm gonna have to, Walt's making noise. And I'm also going to have to do this right here. When I was pulling this over, I kind of spaced and not putting a tack weld down here at the bottom to keep the flanges from spreading open. So that was my bad. So what I'm gonna do is just put a slice there, and same thing, just bring it over. So just kind of explaining how I'm making the rear valence look ultra pretty. Huh, Bolt? Yeah. Is he making too much noise, Bolt? He's scaring you. Ah. All right. Fix all that. Move on to other things. Okay, well. Raymonds generally is off the jig. And I've actually had it off the jig for the last 2 days because I went ahead and welded the subframe connectors in. So these are the ones that actually I make that go through the torsion support and up to the front frame rails. See if I can get a better view here. There you go. You can kind of get the gist of it right there. And I'm still doing a little bit of metal work to it. There it is right here. So the quarter panel extension, oh, that's the driver's side. Where's the passenger side? There it is. So the quarter panel extensions, the one that I was using to fit the quarter panel on here, it didn't have the little ear at the end, that little piece right there, little twang. So I'm like, yeah, you know what? Better dig through my stockpile and find one that has it, because there may be an issue, there may be not. I don't know. I need to check. I know the other side there was. I had to hammer it and make it fit right. And sure enough, it needed a little bit of finessing. So you can see the tang right there actually hits the tail panel and the quarter panel before it can suck in. So that's one of the things I've got to fix. But also what I want to do is I wanted to pull this edge out a little bit so that way it lined up better with the quarter panel. So now my edges are all good, top, middle, bottom. So I just welded a nut to a piece of angle iron, then welded it to the quarter panel, and then just use a slide hammer. Bang, 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 pulled it out, all good. So now I need to cut a slice in this edge right here, so that way I can tap it in so I can form it to the tang and then weld it up. And then after that, that is all good. Other than that, the only piece of metal work I've got left to do is just patching this little piece of rust on the inner fender. Not a big deal. That'll probably take me maybe 30 minutes to 40 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish right here, and then I'll show you the end result. All right, here's another charger tip. Another important area, and a lot of times you do have to do some trimming and modifying and cutting to get this to work right. But you notice that slice right there, it was too short. The arch on the quarter panel went up too high. It actually was about right here. So made a slice, pulled this down, so that way it'll be at the same height. And then all I do is just weld it up and grind it down. And then another thing I had to do is you slice right here, so that way the little tang that's at the bottom of this will recess enough. You hammer it in. Actually, you can see it actually. See how the quarter panel, or the quarter panel goes out at an angle, and all of a sudden has a little dip. That's because it didn't quite fit correctly. So by just doing those little modifications, you can get everything to fit really nice. Hey everyone, Scruffy here. I know, I need to get a haircut, get all trimmed up, but it's still a little cold outside, so I'm not too eager to do that yet. But back on Raymond's car, and it's gone. So Raymond's car is officially done. It is out. The race car is in, because I got clobbered pretty good last time. So it needs a bunch of repairs. This is just cosmetic. That's not a big deal. It's got some pretty good damage underneath. I got hit so hard on the driver's side, which you can't tell because we kind of patched it back together to keep racing. But the engine's no longer sitting in the car straight. The engine's sitting in the car crooked. The driver's side header is completely crushed. All kinds of stuff is boogered up and broken. Anyways, Raymond's car is behind Minty. Chapow, right there. This car is indeed all done and ready to roll. So actually, Raymond can't come get this car for a little bit longer. So he won't be able to come get this thing till like April. Right now, it's not even February yet. So I'm gonna go dump this out of my Arizona place, get it out of my way. See, this in fact actually was the last piece I had to fix. This used to be, I think I talked about it earlier, this used to be right there. So we just cut that piece out, weld in a patch piece, and all gooders. So whatever Raymond wants to do to this thing from here on, that is on him, because what I've done is done, and it looks most gooder. So Actually, I ran out of paint. So on the way to dumping it, I'm gonna go get some more paint and just paint up the grinded spots. Other than that, it's done. So the car will be finished in the Home Depot parking lot. But it turned out great. Anyways, tons of work. It's done. It's out of my hair. And now I have to move on to other things. So Raymond, here is your Restore Generally body. Don't jump this one. Drive this one. If you jump this one, me and every other Mopar enthusiast is going to kick your ass. So enjoy that car, because I have got other things to move on to. I've got to put a 69 A12 clone coronet right here and do all the metal work to it. And then I've got to do a 68 RT Charger 4-speed that's going to sit right here. And then I have two Chargers I'm still working on. The orange 70, blue 68, and many, many others. So, but I enjoy my fun time. So I've got to fix this thing, get it the hell out of the way so I can get back to making money. So until next time, I will catch you guys later. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned something from Raymond's General Lee build, you know, on how to do some metal work to your Charger. But anyways, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.